Okay, we're reading A Course in Miracles, and this is Chapter 7, The Gifts of the Kingdom, and this is Section 9 of Chapter 7. It's called The Extension of the Kingdom. Only you can limit your creative power, but God wills to release it. He no more wills you to deprive yourself of your creations than he wills to deprive himself of his. Do not withhold your gifts to the sonship, or you withhold yourself from God. Selfishness is of the ego, but self-fullness is of spirit, because that is how God created it. The Holy Spirit is in the part of the mind that lies between the ego and the spirit, mediating between them always in favor of the spirit. To the ego, this is partiality, and it responds as if it were being sided against. To spirit, this is truth, because it knows its fullness and cannot conceive of any part from which it is excluded. Spirit knows that the awareness of all its brothers is included in its own, as it is included in God. The power of the whole sonship and of its creator is therefore Spirit's own fullness, rendering its creations equally whole and equal in perfection. The ego cannot prevail against a totality that includes God, and any totality must include God. Everything he created is given all his power because it is part of him and shares his being with him. Creating is the opposite of loss, as blessing is the opposite of sacrifice. Being must be extended. That is how it retains the knowledge of itself. Spirit yearns to share its being as its creator did. Created by sharing, its will is to create. It does not wish to contain God, but wills to extend his being. The extension of God's being is Spirit's only function. Its fullness cannot be contained any more than can the fullness of its creator. Fullness is extension. The ego's whole thought system blocks extension and thus blocks your only function. It therefore blocks your joy so that you perceive yourself as unfulfilled. Unless you create, you are unfulfilled. But God does not know unfulfillment, and therefore you must create. You may not know your own creations, but this can no more interfere with their reality than your unawareness of your spirit can interfere with its being. The kingdom is forever extending because it is in the mind of God. You do not know your joy because you do not know your own self-fullness. Exclude any part of the kingdom from yourself and you are not whole. A split mind cannot perceive its fullness and needs the miracle of its wholeness to dawn upon it and heal it. This reawakens the wholeness in it and restores it to the kingdom because of its acceptance of wholeness. The full appreciation of the mind's self-fullness makes selfishness impossible and extension inevitable. That is why there is perfect peace in the kingdom. Spirit is fulfilling its function, and only complete fulfillment is peace. Your creations are protected for you because the Holy Spirit, who is in your mind, knows of them and can bring them into your awareness whenever you will let him. They are there as part of your own being because your fulfillment includes them. The creations of every son of God are yours, since every creation belongs to everyone, being created for the sonship as a whole. You have not failed to increase the inheritance of the sons of God, and thus have not failed to secure it for yourself. Since it was the will of God to give it to you, he gave it forever. Since it was his will that you have it forever, he gave you the means for keeping it. And you have done so. Disobeying God's will is meaningful only to the insane. In truth, it is impossible. Your self-fullness is as boundless as God's. Like his, it extends forever and in perfect peace. Its radiance is so intense that it creates in perfect joy, and only the whole can be born of its wholeness. Be confident that you have never lost your identity and the extensions which maintain it in wholeness and peace. Miracles are an expression of this confidence. They are reflections of both your proper identification with your brothers and of your awareness that your identification is maintained by extension. The miracle is a lesson in total perception. By including any part of the totality in the lesson, you have included the whole. Okay, the extension of the kingdom is the name of this section. Jesus is using, for the first time really, he's using a word called self-fullness. And he's also talking about spirit. For the first time, there's a cockroach right here, right now. Hello. So he's talking about spirit, and he's talking about self-fullness as opposed to selfishness. Selfishness is of the ego, and self-fullness is of spirit. And he says something interesting, which is the Holy Spirit is in the part of the mind that lies between the ego and the spirit, mediating between them always in favor of the spirit. Now, is the spirit God? Is it the same as God? I think, it's safe to say that it is. And, but spirit might have, just a slightly different function, but it's all really one, one and the same. Just as we are all, part and parcel of God. We're not different. But Jesus does make the point that we did not create God, God created us, and we are part of God's creation. But the creation is only love and the extension of love, and love has to be extended. We may not be aware of what's happening because we're blocking it from our awareness, but it is happening. It happens whether we know it or not, or whether we want it or not, it's happening. But we do want it, we just might not remember that we want it, or that we want it now. Jesus keeps talking about God's will, and what does that mean? What is God's will? It's the same thing. It's extension. Is God's will is extension of love, and that's all that God does, and all that God is, and all that God knows. Nothing else is real, and nothing else is even happening. Only to those in illusion, which would be us, as long as we are not in touch with the totality and the wholeness, then we are, in some way or another, we are denying our own reality, our own true reality, and the only reality that we really want and are. And exclude any part of the kingdom from yourself, and you are not whole. So as long as we are excluding one of our brothers. Now, what is a brother? A brother is not necessarily a brother, like a physical brother. Obviously, it's not a familial brother or like a sibling, and it's not even just a brother, meaning like, a person who's a brother. Or, it's not excluding women, obviously, in saying brother, even though it might look that way. But brother really is anything, whether it's a human, whether it's a cockroach, whether it's anything that that you feel in any way separate from is your brother, or anything that you could either feel separate from or not feel separate from is your brother. So God's will is already done. It was and is and shall be forever and ever. God's will is happening. The whole thing here is to align our will with God's will. The whole thing is to trust and to essentially, as Jesus keeps saying, accept the atonement for ourselves. To accept that the only reality is love, the love of God. Nothing else is real. Nothing else truly exists. And as long as we are in any way in doubt about that or in resistance of that, we are blocking our own understanding and not, let's say, knowing, gnosis of that. So let's read this last little section one more time. Be confident that you have never lost your identity and the extensions which maintain it in wholeness and peace. Miracles are an expression of this confidence. They are reflections of both your proper identification with your brothers, meaning no separation from your brothers, and of your awareness that your identification is maintained by extension. The miracle is a lesson in total perception. By including any part of totality in the lesson, you have included the whole. And by, the corollary to that is, if you exclude any part of the sonship, you've excluded all of it. You either accept all of it, or you exclude all of it. And if you can totally accept even one part of it, then you have accepted all of it. It's holographic, because one brother, as Jesus says, one brother is all brothers. There is no difference. And that's why, to bring in something that we'll talk about again, Jesus does say in different places, in different ways, that there is only one, there's only one of us, and we're all it. And that means that there's only one that needs to wake up. Although it seems from some things that Jesus says, it seems that he's saying it's, the final return will not happen until everyone wakes up. But the question is, if there really is only, if one brother is every brother, that means that when one brother fully awakens, everyone has awoken. Now, how does that work? And, you could tear your hair out with all of this, but I think that the thing is that Jesus does bring up, which is that all you need to do is practice it, and you will see the fruits of it. You will see the benefit of it. You may not be fully cognizant of the whole thing that's happening and that's being said and that's being presented, but that will come with time, until you go beyond time and space. I hope this helps. I don't know if anyone really fully understands this. It's a fascinating. That's why I'm doing this, obviously, because it's difficult to understand what it's saying, and it's it's clear that it's making complete, coherent, consistent sense to someone, to Jesus, I guess. But for the rest of us, it's a little bit, there's still some things in the way, of full understanding. And that might be part of it, is that, like, when you fully wake up, you fully understand it. You fully understand what the message. Or maybe you don't. Who knows? Is this the absolute truth? Everything is an open question, and I don't think it's bad or sinful, for sure, to ask questions even about the Course, and question and use your own reason to make your decisions. If anything, the Course is saying, it's not telling you not to do that. From the very beginning, it says, take your time. The time you take it is up to you, but you will see that whatever resistance you may have, whatever fear you may have, that's what the Course is here for, is to help you work through your fear, until there's no more fear. There's only love. And anyway, I hope this was a little bit helpful. I kind of rambled there at the end, but the extension of the kingdom, the Spirit only extends, and love only extends. Love can only be extended. The ego can only project. So extension and projection. And it will, this will keep coming up as we go along. Thank you for listening. See you soon.